Now we go to the joint committees. Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Yep.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you, Jason.
All right.
So
So we have to-
you call yours in and then I'll call mine in, I guess.
Yeah.
That's how we'll do it.
Yeah.
What's that?
You call your meeting and he'll
Okay, yeah, I mean, I thought when we did a joint that we were gonna all start at 5:30. That was my mistake, and I think that's why Commissioner Lawrence was late in that. I
Oh,
feel
no,
bad, I'm
no,
sorry.
no, it was
So it's just the joint where it's the overlapping.
the overlapping resolution.
Okay, I will know for the
Yes,
future,
yes,
sorry.
yes, Madam Chair.
Yeah, I was confused.
I'm so sorry.
I messed it up too.
Yeah, we were all kind of, I don't know, we should know better, I don't know.
No, it's quite.
I would like to call to order the tax study committee meeting, and we start with citizen communications, right?
Yes, but let's go ahead and have.
I'd like to call to order the property committee meeting for February 4th, 2026.
No, check with.
And I'm pretty sure we have citizen communications. Okay, so we have one citizen up to speak, and that's Janet Curtis. Hello, Ms. Curtis.
Hello. Was not ready for you yet.
Yeah, there's an extra one by Steve.
For the joint. Okay, we got it. We got it.
Okay.
Good evening. As a longtime Franklin resident, I am alarmed by rapid, unmanaged growth that's destroying our quality of life in this county. On February 9, 2026, Commissioners Petty and Hayes will present Resolution 22620. I'm requesting approval of the resolution. The resolution addresses three key issues: financial impact statements from cities before any annexation, exposing the real costs that put a burden on the county taxpayers; the problematic non-contiguous annexation that creates chaotic islands of city control in our rural areas; and finally, granting county residents the right to opt out of the urban growth boundary. Residents currently have the right to request that they be annexed into the city. Equally, county residents should be given the right to get out of the urban growth boundary. During the growth plan discussions in 2024, hundreds of residents requested to be removed from the UGB. Their requests were immediately denied. Why aren't the residents requesting to be taken out of the UGB afforded the same right as the residents that are requesting annexation? We as county residents are burdened with the taxes to afford the expansion of the municipal boundaries, but we, the residents within those expanded boundaries, have no rights. This is not a problem unique to Williamson County. Loudoun and Murray counties are experiencing the same issues, and they have already passed similar resolutions unanimously. This is fair, bipartisan, and long overdue. We're sick of taxation without representation. Cities pocket development fees and taxes, but unincorporated county residents pay higher taxes to fix overcrowded schools, road services that are wrecked by their growth. Superintendent Jason Golden warned schools reach effective crowding around 90% due to specialized programs, interventions, and accommodations for students with disabilities. The crisis is real. According to 2025-26 data, elementary nightmare. Nolensville Elementary School's over 105%. Thompson Station near 98 to 100%, and Trinity at 98%, and new developments like Poplar Farms will push it over the edge. Middle and high school overload. Mill Creek Middle is at 117%. Page Middle is at 100%. Others are between 93 and 95% and climbing as feeders advance. District enrollment sits at 41,374 and still growing, with annexation-driven influxes forcing bigger classes, open zoning, and more tax hikes while city take the revenue. This isn't anti-growth, it's responsible growth, transparency, accountability, and protecting our children's education. There is currently a bill being introduced at the state level addressing the issue of the county being provided financial impact statements before annexation is allowed. By voting in favor of the resolution, you are showing your support for the bill. Thank you, and help support our future and our family and our education.
Thank you, Mrs. Curtis. Okay. Now we need to have acceptance of the minutes. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Any questions about the meeting minutes from? If there are no questions, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, that's unanimously. All right, moving right along. Keep up, who's on first? Do I just move forward and then give it to Ricky? Like, how do we do this?
Yeah, you do it first.
Okay. Just making sure. Don't want to step on your toes. Co-commissioner. Okay, so looking at resolution 22620. Did I get a motion for?
Go ahead and read the title
Read it.
first.
Okay. All right, so Williamson Board of Commissioners requesting review and amendment of Tennessee's comprehensive growth plan and annexation statutes to address county concerns related to annexation and growth management. Can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second?
Okay, thank you. All
Okay,
right.
resolution of the Williamson County Board of Commissioners requesting review and amendment of Tennessee's comprehensive growth plan and annexation statutes to address county concerns related to annexation and growth management. Can I get a motion from the property?
Second.
Okay, motion and second.
All right. Bill, do you want to take the floor in a minute?
Well, I guess so. I guess I have to, don't I?
I can take
First
your.
of all, I want to preface my remarks. This was not designed to cast any aspersions towards the leadership in Williamson County. The leadership's been fantastic over the last 30 years or so. We've had incredible growth. We've had a lot of issues to deal with. We've built 27 schools since 1990. We've grown from 91,000 to close to 300,000 in the county in that period of time. And I understand the reason that we had the urban growth boundaries set up, and I think that was a wise decision. But I think we're at a point now where we need to review and maybe rethink this. I'm hearing more and more from people in my district and people I talk to about the crowding on the roads. I know that there have been cases where emergency vehicles have had a difficult time getting through traffic. And it's just, we're getting more and more congested, and I think people are very concerned about that. So it's not, my concern is not with just stopping growth, but taking a look at the impact of new developments and what they will do to a particular area. And, you know, I'm thinking right now about the West Haven area and what's coming up there. They've got several high-rise buildings going on there where they're gonna add more people. And then we're gonna start the Armistead program of development across the street with another 800 some odd homes and a motel. And we still have a two-way bridge going over the Harpeth River. And it's bad now, and what's it gonna be like in 2 or 3 years? It was my understanding, and I could be wrong, but my understanding from talking to some aldermen is that the earliest we could get another bridge across Harpeth would be 2032. So all I'm trying to say is that maybe we need to rethink this a little bit. Another one of the issues is, you know, annexing non-contiguous property. That wasn't in the original plan for the UGBs, and that's been added on later. But I think we want to have responsible growth. And at the moment, the county, we have no say in it at all. And I think we should be able to partner in that a little bit more than we are now. So that's kind of, you know, the 30,000 view of how I look at it right now. And I'm hoping this starts a meaningful conversation that we look at things and cooperate together, counties, cities, to deal with the impacts of this continued growth with regard to fire, rescue, police, schools, etc., and also provide a little more representation for the people in the unincorporated areas that don't have it right now.
I'll second what Commissioner Petty just said and then add to it, during the urban growth plan meetings and the coordinating committee, I led an effort to ensure my Burwood people that wanted out were out. And it was a very emotional issue. And they felt like, well, who's supposed to, you're supposed to represent and assist us. But yet it looks like they don't give you any power to do that. Where's our voice? So I think this gives them more of a voice. I know, I've heard comments about, oh, well, I don't want to be donut holed, where, my community, they allow somebody to annex that's non-contiguous in the middle of a great community, a rural area, and then we've got a cluster home community and we're stuck with it. We have no say. I just think this gives a little more balance, as well as requiring these cities to be more responsible to look at how it impacts our community. And we all know Spring Hill is our wonderful child down there that has grown and grown and grown. And I even look at Fairview, and I'm worried that Fairview's getting there because the state has already said Highway 100 will not be touched for 10 years. And we're already have traffic problems with 100 when there's a wreck on Interstate 40. So, I think we really do need to have a little more measured approach, and would really love to have your support for this resolution, and I'll turn it over for questions.
May I ask Christie to address
Sure.
the committee? And sorry, Christie, I didn't give you a heads up on this, but so would you talk a little bit about the process that from the original resolution that we looked at and we were not satisfied with, and you did a lot of work from our comments on the amendments that are in the current one, and how that all worked and what we've arrived at.
Sure. So the original resolution, there's been a kind of a sample resolution circulating amongst the counties. I think somebody mentioned Loudoun County. Janet did. There's been a couple of counties that have passed resolutions, and so when this one came in, I had expressed some concerns to Commissioner Petty because, frankly, some of it was just wrong. I mean, it was referencing the wrong public chapter numbers, and it was just like factually inaccurate. And the other concern I had was the way that sample one was drafted. It was expressing concerns about some things, but the relief that it was asking for wouldn't accomplish that. And so when the tax study committee met on that resolution, we sat in here and kind of discussed it. And I said, okay, tell me what y'all are actually looking for, and then let's draft that resolution, setting aside this sample one, because, and as I understand the discussion that night, it's a good thing that the growth plan law encourages the cities and the county to work together to figure out their growth. And that a lot of the concerns that were expressed they're related more to annexation and the plans of services. I mean, some concerns about the growth plan, and so that particular resolution didn't really even address that very much. So hearing the comments and the requests from the tax study committee, we had prepared some amendments, but it would have been a whole patchwork quilt at the county commission meeting that night. And so Commissioner Petty pulled it, and then I worked with him to draft this revised version, which is essentially what the other one could have been eventually with all the amendments. But it's basically all the things that the tax study committee expressed that evening that they wish to see in a request to the legislative delegation. So that's how we got this one.
You go first, Barb.
I just want to know, is this requiring approval by the county commission, legislative body, before municipalities can annex land in UGB?
This is requiring the county commission to approve the plan of services. And that has to be approved by the city legislative body before they can approve an annexation ordinance.
Every annexation requires
A-
a plan of services.
Yes, every annexation requires a plan of services. That's approved by the city along with the annexation,
What if the
ordinance.
plan is no services?
Well, the plan of services has to have a minimum amount of information in it, according to the statute. And it has to have a general expectation of when and how those services would be provided. The body that would have standing to challenge that, should it not come into being, if the city doesn't honor the plan of services, would be the citizens that are not receiving the services in the plan. So the area that's annexed, as I understand it. Again, I'll say
So
this.
I'm just
I
remembering
don't
back
practice
to,
annexation law.
I just remember back to, was it Twin Farms? It was Thompson Station was annexed.
Two farms.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And there was no services being offered. It was like, well, we'll just have the same sheriff that's doing Thompson Station, well, they'll just cover these extra, whatever, 1,000 acres. And who knows how many houses, and there was no utilities being offered. So that's my question is can the plan be no services?
Well, I guess part of it is, depends on who you ask. No, it can't be no services, but it can say that the services that we're providing for Parks and Recreation is already sufficient to address this additional area, that type of thing.
Or, well, who would be the entity that says this is unacceptable?
The landowners that are being annexed who are not receiving those services that the city is saying they will be offering in their plan of services.
So
As I
they're
understand the
okay with
standing
it.
part.
They're okay with it then.
It goes.
I believe so, but I haven't researched that extensively. But yes, that's my understanding of who has standing to challenge a plan of services if it's not fulfilled.
So they would submit a plan of services and the commission would approve it.
So the way this resolution is drafted, and again, this is just a request to your legislative delegation, so who knows if it
What
ends
they come
up
up with.
anything like this. The way it's drafted now, number 7, is it requires the plan of services to be reviewed by and commented upon by the county legislative body. And where these impact studies that we mentioned earlier in the resolution determines that county infrastructure will be impacted, then the county legislative body must approve the plan prior to approval of the annexation resolution. So that's how this
So
is
if there's
drafted.
an impact, then we have to approve it. Okay.
You're married?
Mary? Yep. Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for putting on this work for this. Commissioner Petty, I think this is something that I know the constituents out in my area have definitely been asking for. But I think one of the benefits that we also have to consider here is that it also does benefit our municipalities. So as us being the representative body of the entire county, every municipality is also represented. So it also gives you the opportunity that if one municipality might be doing, major growth or an annexation project, it does give you the opportunity, if you represent Brentwood, or you represent Spring Hill, or you represent, Thompson Station, any other area, to be able to see what that plan of services that will impact everybody in the county. So I do like it from that standpoint, that I don't feel like I don't want it to be like framed that it's municipalities versus the county. I don't think that's what this is. I think this is saying that we want to make sure county residents as a whole have a say in plans of service that will impact all of our taxes, not just one particular municipality. So I think this is really, really well done, and I think it does give us more insight and more transparency to what development's happening. And I also appreciate giving the citizens a voice in the role they play as municipalities continue to grow. But I would be interested in hearing from anybody that represents a municipality, like if there's still any kickback. True.
So just a question for Christy and then a comment to both committees is on number 7, feels like that is where we would potentially get a lot of pushback, and would we even have legal standing? And like you said, who knows what the delegation or a legislator, what the final product would be. So So question on, are my spidey senses accurate?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't want to speak for the
Yeah.
municipalities, but it does seem to appear to give the county legislative body veto power over their
Yeah.
annexation, and I can't imagine that the city's representatives at the legislature would see it differently, but.
So then because I think that overall, I think that some of the things that we're asking to do with this is good. Again, it's an ask of our delegation. I think this will be maybe the third since I've been on the commission where we've had a resolution like this, asking the delegation to do something. Knowing that we have had a good history of cooperation with the municipalities, or at least my understanding is we've had a good, overall cooperation. Would we serve ourselves better in thinking through a task force or some group where the municipalities are at the table with us? We're expressing our concerns, they're expressing theirs, because in a couple conversations with some aldermen, they, particularly City of Franklin, everybody that wanted out of the UGB this last go-round, they let out. Franklin.
No.
Okay.
No?
So my concern is that we're running really quickly down a path as a county legislative body where we may not even have legal authority. And if we're trying to solve for something, what I'd like to understand is how are we doing it coordinating with municipalities? So.
Well, it's in the statute, if I'm not misquoting it, that they are supposed to have a plan of services before they annex, correct? Or there's something that,
No, every annexation has to
Right.
have a plan of services that the city approves when they also approve their annexation.
this is to me more of an accountability, a check and a balance. To say, do you have that plan? What does that look like? Because what I felt like as a county commissioner, when I go to the coordinating committee meetings, I felt like I had no authority. There's only 2 commissioners and a mayor, and then there's 16 city people. And we were outnumbered. So I didn't feel like we really had representation. I think this is just a check and balance to make sure they're doing that plan of service.
Just a point of clarification on 7 to Commissioner Torres's comment,
Get you.
we only would actually approve it if there's actually an impact to county infrastructure. If there's no impact to county infrastructure, then we're just reviewing it. We might comment on it, but we're not
Yes.
taking any action.
Yes,
That's it.
that's how it's.
Commissioner Williams?
Yeah, a couple comments, and then Chris might have a couple questions. If you don't know the
Okay.
answer, it's okay.
I'll tell you by then.
When I read this, I don't disagree from the county's perspective really with any of this. This would be great for us to have this type of input and say so. My fear, just from observation in the past, anytime legislation goes up to the state house that perceivably puts the counties versus the cities, it doesn't succeed. There's 95 county mayors and there's 440 something city mayors across the state. And usually our state representatives will not touch that with a 10-foot pole when those type of scenarios go on. However, what we did with the UGB in this county here recently was a completely novel thing across the state from my understanding. Are you aware of any bill that's been submitted at the state so far to try and memorialize that process statewide?
I'm not, but that doesn't mean something hasn't been filed. I haven't seen a compilation yet. There's something usually filed almost every section about the road plan law. There probably is, and I just haven't seen it.
Because from my perspective, I think that's potentially from a collaborative growth management plan. If there's a bill put forward that forces the cities and the counties to have to work together, similarly what we did down here, and then you've got this opportunity to start working in these types of checks and balances into it. To me, that becomes a lot more palatable versus when I read this, there's a lot of great stuff at county, but if I was a city representative, I read this and go, oh wait, hold on, I now have to do all these different things and you have veto power over an annexation. It's just perception. Second one is, I remember I was working at the state, and Chris, you might remember this, but there was an amendment to the annexation laws in like the 2010s that went from annexations were done on citywide referendum and then went to citywide referendum or affected property owners.
Yes.
And it was at that point in time is where all of a sudden it created a loophole in essence. And I think it solved one specific problem, but then it opened up a number of issues statewide. And ever since then, from my perspective, that has been the critical error in the amendment, is allowing annexations to happen with only the affected property owners. And so now they can cherry pick very specific properties, right? Where, like, for example, I think what's going on in Franklin right now on the south side with that whole annexation, I'm willing to bet the city of Franklin referendum, I wouldn't approve that. You know, just based from the voices that you hear, you know, it's all just perception, you know, observation. But from my opinion, going back to a referendum, citywide referendum as to whether or not annexation happens, solves a lot of problems around the annexation piece. I think this resolution addresses some of the UGB components to it. That's another element of it. But I have no problem supporting this, but I'm not hopeful that this is actually going to go anywhere, because I think it pits the cities versus the counties. I think this could be incorporated into a bill that forces the counties and the cities to go through a similar like process that we just went through from a unified growth plan concept. I think that opens the door for a lot of these things to potentially conceptually to be incorporated into it. So it's just a rethinking a little bit. I don't disagree with what's right in front of us. It's a rethinking a little bit about maybe what's the best way to approach it to actually have success, right?
It's my understanding that Senator Hensley and Representative Frett have put forward a bill. I have not seen it yet. I've asked for copies. Is it out? Okay. I haven't read it yet, but
So there is a bill.
there's something out there, yes.
Okay.
There's a bill
So
to,
we can pull it.
To what?
there is a bill, you guys can keep talking, I'll pull up the.
Well,
It's surrounding this issue.
That's what I was going to piggyback with Matt, being around two farms and everything until the state does something about individual property rights over everybody else's rights. I don't know how far this will go. When we voted for the 5 acres, I made a comment at the commission meeting that we would have people that want to sell Granddaddy's farm to ask to be annexed into the cities so that they could develop it and sell it more. And it has happened all over Fairview. And it has happened all over Fairview. And the reason they do that, they say it's my property. And if I want to be in the city, I want to be in the city. And until we do something like you say, where the cities and the communities' rights trumps theirs, I don't know what I'm with you, but how are we going to stop it?
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I appreciate the comments. I appreciate your comments. And this is my thought process. We're getting something started here and hopefully have something substantive. And, that's why we're having this conversation tonight, and we'll have it on Monday night to hone and refine, what we've started with. And I think this is wonderful. This is exactly the kind of conversation I think we should have, and I'm very excited to hear the comments that are being made.
Mary has a bill
I have the
number.
bill number. So it's SB 2311. And just the caption is, as introduced, requires the municipality to obtain approval of a proposed annexation from the county legislative body, requires the municipality to submit certain reports to the county legislative body regarding the proposed annexation. But I agree with everything you all have just said. And I think that really the intent here is to say, listen, these are the problems we need you to address. And for them to take the initiative, to whether it's that bill or another bill that might come up and say, listen, you've kind of gone a little bit backwards from what the original intent of this public chapter, the non-contiguous caused, some issues. And now, like you said, Commissioner Williams, like this cherry picking. But my understanding though is if I request annexation, the city does not have to approve that annexation. They can't provide the services, then they can say, listen, there's not enough revenue coming in for us to increase our services.
They don't have to,
But they're not doing that.
I've never heard Fairview say no.
Well, that's kind of a shame, but I still think that this is at least a framework that we can give to them and say, please help us, because our growth is it's going faster on infrastructure, and I've lived here long enough to remember that that wasn't a problem. There was a time when our infrastructure was ahead of our growth, and we could handle it. It's not that way anymore. And so like I said, we're not the only ones across the state. We need help. And we need to find some better way to collaborate. And I feel like this is not, I don't want it to be, us versus them. I think together, collectively, we all gotta get on the same page because we want everyone who moves here to be able to have the quality of services they expect when they move to this county. And that's,
Barb, Barb?
Yeah, what I feel like initiated this from the residents is, they're like, we're in the UGB, we don't wanna be in the UGB, we don't wanna be near development. And I'm wondering how this does anything for those people. I mean, this seems like it's protecting the county from having this huge impact in infrastructure that we didn't anticipate and weren't sure how to deal with. But I don't see how this protects residents from being put in the UGB or
Well,
not being put in the UGB.
Look at number
one thing that
4,
wasn't.
Barb.
and
See if that answers.
One thing is that we post the notice of the UGB and annexations in the paper. Well, who reads the paper anymore? It's kind of like a hidden spot. And so number 3 specifically addresses, which was a complaint I heard over and over and over when I had my meeting in Burwood, is putting, sending a letter and making sure they are notified in writing with an advanced amount of notice. So that to me is one of the many important things that, a lot of these property owners wanted. They didn't even know about it until I door knocked. And Greg, do you?
Yeah, Greg, and then
I am a co-signer on this, so that's why I wanted to comment and clarify, but go ahead.
Yeah, I saw a draft of this that was actually commented on by the Franklin City Attorney. Some of you may have seen that, I don't know, but there's one item, really, she didn't have a lot of problems with any of these except one. We pushed back pretty hard on number 4, and I wanted to get your comment on this, Christie, because it seems to me prohibit the inclusion of a property in the urban growth boundary without the consent of the property owner and require the removal of property from the urban growth boundary if requested by the property owner. That sounds kind of like the twin brother of non-contiguous annexation, because if you had somebody within the urban growth boundary that said, no, I don't want my 20 acres to be in the urban growth boundary, but they're not on the border, then you could have that 20 acres inside the urban growth boundary, more or less removed from the urban growth boundary, but everything else around it would still be in the urban growth boundary. So could you comment on that, or?
Well, I didn't see Shauna's opinion, but it would create donut holes in the UGB, but it's still just in the UGB. It's not annexed until it's annexed. So, that's why it's not in the statute now, because, not to speak on behalf of cities, but cities need to be able to plan, and if it's a patchwork quilt, how can they know what they're annexing? But that's what that would create. It would create donut holes.
Yeah, it's exactly the same argument we use for non-contiguous annexation, because we say that's, we don't want non-contiguous annexation because we don't want a little bit of city surrounded by county where we have to maintain the infrastructure. And so their position is we don't want a spot zone of non-urban growth boundary inside the urban growth boundary.
But
It seems to be almost the same argument that we have.
these are
They
policy.
don't ever annex it, you're still gonna see some issue. You
What-
can
what
annex
they-
everything around it,
Right.
not that one.
Well, they can't annex you anyway.
Chaz, would you like to speak now? I'm sorry.
You're recognized.
If tax study won't hear me, property will.
Sorry.
Listen,
We have some passion out here.
yeah, no, it's a passionate thing. I was one of the 2 commissioners that served on the growth plan committee. Krista was there, and I'm glad Mike's here too. I think the sentiment that we all have is that we, want to make sure that it's done by collaboration. Mr. Torres, Mr. Williams both hit on the idea that I truly believe we can solve problems here locally better than they can in Nashville, trying to identify 95 counties versus just us. To that end, and what I'd like maybe for Christie and perhaps Mike to be able to maybe enlighten us a little bit on are some of the tools that we incorporated into this. Again, we were dealing with a growth boundary law that did not fit us. And so because of that, we stayed within the parameters and then set up interlocal agreements in coordination and cooperation with our cities to be able to address so many of those things. I think all of these ideas are very good. I think for political and neighborly reasons, us attempting to work within the framework and interlocal agreements and relationships that we have is the more likely path to success than going to the state, telling them to do something without giving them a great amount of direction. Heavens knows what they'll do. I think we have, and so I'd like, if Christie could maybe expound on, do we have the ability to accomplish some of these things within our interlocal agreements and what we have now? How are our quarterly meetings going with the cities? So much of this is because cities and counties didn't communicate, the state didn't address it for 20 years. We got together. It is certainly not perfect, but it's better than what the state has now, and I'll venture to guess it's better than what they come up with, unless they model our plan, which we've already got. So I don't need the state to come and do that. I hope they will for others. I think it has been successful. I say that understanding that it's not perfect. I do think it's better than what we have, and I think it's got the ability to improve itself. And I just want to make sure that we're exploring that. And so to that end, Christie and Mike could maybe, tell us, what tools we have available already. Can we work within those? We can certainly ask the state to do it too, but I think we can do it without them. So that's my comment.
I'll let Mike address the roundtable, but before, we do have the interlocal agreement. That was the difference in our growth plan than other growth plans. Originally, the growth plan law, cities could not annex outside of the UGBs without a referendum. And then they changed the annexation laws about 50 times. And so with our interlocal agreement, now the cities will not annex outside of their UGB. There is a relief valve for an economic development project if one comes in for the cities and it makes sense, but they can't annex outside of UGB just for residential development or something like that. And that would have to be approved by that roundtable of mayors, that relief valve that we put in there. So to answer your question, a lot of things can be addressed by interlocal agreement if the parties are willing, and we have this, like in that agreement, we also said we were gonna revisit the plan in 5 years, so it wouldn't sit dormant for 20. And so there are a number of opportunities for discussion in that interlocal agreement authority. Even if it's a separate interlocal agreement, that's something that cities can do together, cities and counties can work together and address. If it's within the authority of that local government, they have the authority to contract with another local government to work on it together. And there are a couple of different authorities, but to answer your question about the roundtable, Mike, do you want to come up and just kind of talk about how those have been going? And again, that interlocal agreement created this, what we've dubbed the roundtable, and it's a committee of the mayors that have to meet. They have to meet regularly.
Good evening, everybody. So I guess I'll start by maybe piggybacking a little bit on what Christie said. We're real lucky in Williamson County to have really good relationships with municipalities. I don't think that was always the case, but I think it's been the case for a number of years. I've worked in other places where that wasn't the case. I go to conferences, I hear here in Tennessee about counties and cities where they don't get along at all. So we're really fortunate. And I think that was kind of borne out in the growth plan update process, which was a good process. It wasn't perfect, but it was good. And that was a case where all 7 jurisdictions got together for a common goal. And it was not easy, but we got through it, and it changed quite a bit from the initial proposals that some of these municipalities had, because the process worked, because people, like these folks spoke to their county commissioners, they spoke to the group as a whole, and in the case of Thompson Station, they did exclude pretty much everybody who didn't want to be in. Franklin had a very responsible growth boundary where, I don't remember what the net change was, but it's very, very similar in size to what it was 20 years ago. So I think I just wanted to make that point that we do have a good relationship, and that kind of segues into the roundtable. There was an outgrowth of that relationship, and out of the collaboration that took place during that process, there was a recognition that, hey, this is great. We need to be sitting around the table more often. And so since the growth plan update
process concluded, the Growth Management Roundtable, which consists of the mayors of each of the jurisdictions, has been meeting quarterly to talk about issues facing everyone. And I think that they all have found that that's a real useful exercise, and they're excited about that continuing. So that's gone well. You know, they've focused on a variety of topics, transportation being a key one. But I do think that there's an opportunity for continuing to build on those relationships through the roundtable and through the collaboration that has already been started here.
Commissioner.
So as one of the few commissioners whose district is completely within a municipality, I am interested, Christy or Mike, what the municipality mayors, what their thoughts are, because what I don't want to have happen, it's a little bit about what Commissioner Torres spoke on, is while we are working well with each other with these interlocals, we put this forth and we sever any goodwill that we have, and we actually kind of go back 20, 30 years where now we're at loggerheads with each other. So what is the feedback you received, or Mike, maybe you have in those roundtables about this possible moving forward?
But this came up after the last roundtable, so we haven't had that group together since this is.
And you haven't got any feedback from
They don't
any
meet
of them?
again in March. I haven't personally, but I have seen emails that have come from, not from the mayors, but from city managers. I know Eric Suki sent something, Jason Gage from Brentwood sent something. I'm sure there's some others that y'all received that I haven't even.
We had an alderman from Thompson Station. His biggest concern was the non-contiguous, not being able to donut home.
So, and that's what I've received as well. The feedback I've gotten from municipality leaders is that they are not on board with this. And so and it's difficult being a county commissioner who represents a municipality, is how do we continue to foster those good relations? And it sounds like we have them based on the last urban growth boundary meetings and resolutions. And so I just didn't know if you kind of, other than what we had been hearing, if you had the pulse of the rest of the municipalities and their thoughts on this.
I don't think it's favorable.
Steve?
Some of the emails I got and that we all got, weren't those based at the time on the original resolution?
Yes.
So,
The ones that I've seen, but
yeah, they didn't have the advantage of seeing the amendments that we're looking at tonight.
True.
But I will say, even the one or two I've seen, there were overtures of, hey, we want to talk, if you sit down with us, let's talk about this kind of thing. I mean, they weren't happy about that resolution, but it seemed like they were maybe I misread it, but overtures of let's work together to figure this out.
Hey, Chrissy,
Mhm.
when the roundtable meets, is there a way for the public to participate?
Mm-hmm. We
Public
just
comment.
like this is public comment.
So is it reasonable to think that residents would show up to the roundtable and say, hey, I don't like what's going on and I don't want to be part of this? Or is it like, thanks for your input and we're moving forward?
Well, I mean, it's like any other committee, the public appears and we publish the agenda, and so sometimes it's on topic, sometimes it's not, but that's, I don't know how to answer that.
Happy all the time, so I'm just, the only reason why I see this as necessary is just to give people more of a voice. But I'm not sure if, I mean, I don't want donut holes in the urban growth boundary either, so I feel like it's kind of a hard thing to make everybody happy here.
And I agree, the donut holes would be an issue, but I think overall, I think the one thing that really sticks out to me is because we do have to be the ones to provide these services too, is going back to listen, you have to go and you have to look at your plan of services as a municipality and make sure that you can provide those services. I think that it's important for us to know if there's going to be an impact to our county services, we need the ability to also be able to vote on that, because we're gonna have to come up with the fiscal, we're the fiscal stewards for the county dollars. So I still think that that's an important component here, to make sure that if our taxes are gonna go up, maybe they're not, maybe there's gonna be more revenue come in, maybe the plan of services will basically, be like, hey, this is gonna bring in great revenue for the entire county. So I think we're focused on always like there being a negative connotation, there could be a positive connotation too. I just think that it's important to see what is the impact to our county
And there's not
services.
already a requirement?
Don't,
There,
It is
is
in
there
the
already a
statute, but-
requirement for plan of services?
For the municipalities. It's in the
I
statute.
don't think
but
it
we
necessarily is detailed enough to require an analysis of outside of the annex area, but I could be wrong. Again, I've never prepared plan of services. But I don't think it focuses on
Yeah,
the
I like
impact
that
on the
aspect
county.
of it. I don't like this inability to represent the people directly.
You haven't spoken with me.
I have a little bit, but just a question, and I want to get this straight. If a property owner asks to be in the cities, are we going to say we as the county can say no if they don't provide the services? Is that what we're saying?
I don't think so.
The way
Well,
this
I'm
is
just-
drafted, if they have
Maybe
a plan of
contiguous.
services that has an impact on the county outside of that annexed area, then that plan of service would come to the county commission for an up or down vote.
Only if there's.
If there's an
But
impact.
I'm just asking, are we gonna say, are we gonna get in, I don't know, I'm just asking. Are we going to be, because the state is really big on property rights, okay? And individual property rights. Maybe this doesn't do that, but I just wanna know, is that what we're saying? If there's no, and I'm not selling my property, okay? I don't want this, but I'm just saying, is that part of the plan?
I would say yes.
I would say that we're just saying, yes, we can pay for the services. If you're going to annex and you're going to zone, then we have the ability to pay for those services. Then we know what the impact is to our budget to be able to provide additional.
But if we don't
enforcement.
like it, or we go say, no, you can't go into
Or
the
if we
city.
can't afford
We
to.
can't afford,
Potentially.
yeah, we
Okay.
can't afford to give
We're
you
gonna
the
tell a
services.
property owner that they can't be annexed into a city.
If we can't afford to give them the services, I mean,
Okay.
But don't we need to know what the property is gonna be used for to
Right.
make that
That's part of
assessment?
the impact.
So what if they're just saying, I wanna be annexed and there is no?
single family.
That goes to the state.
Well, there's a farmer and his wife and they have 800 acres. And they just say, we wanna be annexed, and that's all you know.
Something is that if it's just a single farm, just if there's a rezoning, you bring up this point, are we rezoning it, or are we just annexing it? If we're just annexing it as is, then, and I brought this question up last time too, like, really it comes down to when you actually gonna develop it,
Yeah,
is that we have to provide the services.
right.
So that's like another part of the conversation. That's step two.
So some of the language that's in here, a lot of times, a city will take a piece of property in and they'll just zone it at their lowest density if there's no plan. But oftentimes it comes in, a lot of cities do things like PUDs, and so it comes in as a special plan in addition to the annexation, then that's the zoning.
That'll happen at the same time.
The way this is drafted is when they're calculating the impact, if there is a comprehensive land use plan that applies to that land that is saying that that land can be used for X, Y, Z, then they have to take that into consideration in calculating the impacts. But I worded that as best I could. Not everybody has a comprehensive land use plan, and not everybody sticks with it, so.
That was my next thought. They
Right.
might say, this is what we thought we were gonna do with it, but we changed our minds.
Exactly, yeah.
Chaz.
Well,
Chaz. Chaz is next.
the Franklin Planning Commission just approved the annexation of the Ingram property along Columbia Avenue, Columbia Pike, 79 acres. There's no plan, none. There's
So
no-
it will go in as agriculture, whatever their lowest density zone is, I believe is what's proposed for that.
Commissioner Morton.
I don't know. I do believe the city of Franklin and maybe the other municipalities, at least as far as, the biggest impacts we have in the county are obviously schools. And I do believe the municipalities, meet with Jason and the schools about the impact that is anticipated from their growth. I do think part of that's there, but I'll let cities speak for themselves. Just from an academic, question, anytime the city expands, it has an impact on the county. It does. You can't get anywhere without touching the county something. So we'll always have that veto power. And I don't think that's the intent. I think there needs to be some materiality to it, but just is it gonna impact us? Well, yeah, we can always create that. And that's gonna create a lot of fear from the cities, rightfully so, because I don't know that we should have that much authority. If we do, then that's called metro government, and I'll, fight to the death about not becoming national. So, anyway, I just, like I said, I think it's all the right ideas. I think we're all on the same page. I don't even know that there's that much, and I keep just saying Franklin. I think there's, I'm always too hopeful. I think that there's room for collaboration. I don't think that there's as much animosity. I think that the goodwill that we've built, we're seeing it, and the projects that we're seeing currently are because there's a lag in property rights and developing something, and when it comes to fruition, that I don't know that we're seeing the full impact of what we have built with our interlocal agreements and current growth plan. Notwithstanding where we are today, I'd like to keep working with what we do, with what we have, and I'm a little fearful of us losing the ground that we've gained if we run to the state and tell them to do something that I'm not sure they'll fix properly. That's my hesitations on it.
All right, any other questions, comments, concerns?
Any from the property committee?
All right, so we'll have a
Can I ask
vote.
one question?
Commissioner Williams?
Sure.
Would it be more appropriate to amend this to where the request of our delegation is to send a bill forward that models what Williamson County has done with the cities and make it statewide law, right? And then that opens the door for the conversation to then start addressing and making sure both sides are equally represented in that process.
Can you clarify what you mean by mimic Williamson County? Like what exactly are they mimicking?
I think you can take, like I said, what Williamson County did with the cities and develop and redrawn UGBs and put interlocal agreements in place is a novel concept in this state. And it is probably decades ahead of most other jurisdictions. I think there's an opportunity to take what we did and model a process to make it state law that every county in their incorporated cities go through a similar type process in managing a unified growth plan.
Are you proposing that?
Well, I'm just, and this is kind of an open question, I guess, I'm trying to gauge appetite, y'all, but, because I, like I said, as a county commissioner, I don't have a problem with being in here, right? Like, this is great for us as a county and then being able to manage it. I'm just trying to be realistic. I don't think this has a snowball's chance in getting passed up at the state because you're pitting the counties versus the cities without a mechanism that's preparing to present it more as a unified growth strategy, right? Because you're putting our delegation in hot water with the cities. Just put it that way.
I think possibly suggest, because it just says consider the following. So it's not telling them, like, this is just kind of a list of concerns our citizens have brought to us that we're bringing forward. And I don't think you have to take it holistically, but maybe amending it and adding a number 11 to consider the process that Williamson County's put together with the interlocal agreements. And maybe they can look at this and say, this we can do. Like, we don't have to, it's not all or nothing. But there's steps in here that we could adopt, and maybe what you're suggesting is add a number 11 to also consider the interlocal agreement that Williamson County has proceeded with during their growth planning.
As I'm sitting here contemplating, there's kind of 3 courses of action, right? We can ask for a bill that's modeled after what Williamson County's doing in municipalities. That's like option 1. We can approve this here, which I just don't think will succeed because you're putting our delegation at a county versus city scenario. Or three, our fallback plan is through our current process, just locally. The next time the interlocal agreements come up, we can try to address these points in the next iteration of it as it comes around. But
I think number 3 could happen anyway.
it can, but that could happen with us not pushing this forward, right?
Yeah, I think
I think that's a great idea. I just think you have to realize what Christie said. What we were able to accomplish required a great deal of cooperation and willingness to work together and in some cases give up things that you actually wanted if you were a municipality. That may not be something that you're gonna get, in every county. I mean, it may not even be possible. But it was a voluntary, all the groups came together voluntarily. There was nothing legally that required us to do it. But
That was what I'm saying, let's legally require them to do that. I mean, that's ideally what a bill at the State House would come forward and require that collaboration and that unified growth plan in each county jurisdiction, right?
But still, at the end of the day, we had to have unanimous agreement in order to move forward with what we came up with. And if we didn't get that, we would have had to gone to the state and have a three-judge panel to decide what our growth boundaries were going to be. And even though I didn't particularly want to vote on it because of some of the municipalities that had taken more land than I thought they actually needed at the time, and the residents didn't want it. I didn't want three judges deciding, what our growth boundaries were. So, but it's a great idea. But I just think I guess if it doesn't work, if we propose that and it becomes law, then it's either or for the counties. Either you get together and you come up with a plan, or we're gonna let the judges decide it for you. Would that be a fair statement, Christie? Okay, so what?
The growth plan law we follow the growth plan law as it is now. The difference is we added the additional layer of the interlocal agreement addressing some things just in Williamson County that we thought was the best practice for our county.
It added some teeth
Yes.
to it that previously didn't exist.
But it also, it added a requirement to revisit it in 5 years. So it's not dusty on a shelf and doesn't mean anything. So people, if it's not functioning as it should, it's looked at again.
Right.
It's making the mayors come and sit around the table and at least stare at each other every quarter and talk about things and hopefully accomplish something together. So yeah, I mean, that was the additional layer. That was the new and different thing that we didn't have. The first time we did this, we didn't even have a plan. It was literally just a map. So the fact that we have a plan that actually has some goals and objectives in this interlocal agreement, because you're not required to have a plan, you're just required to have a map, essentially. So, I mean, we kind of went above and beyond. Now, a lot of communities do that, but so we stayed within the growth plan law statutory guidelines and then use some other statutory authority to add in the interlocal agreement aspect of it. But yes, to your point, in the growth plan law process, if the legislators of, whether it's the city or county, if there's multiple rejections of the growth plan, ultimately, there's a couple of different administrative law judge processes that your plan gets decided upon. And then the first time we did it, if you didn't do it by a certain deadline, you weren't eligible for grants and you missed like tip points on grants and stuff. That's how they did it for the initial ones. But I believe there's a requirement that says you have to revisit it at all. That's why our set still.
I guess from everything I've heard, considering what's on paper, I keep hearing more concern will damage our relationship with cities, and I respect that. But where has it been that they're concerned about the county commissioners who represent the people that are impacted, which are the rural people? And I am one of those, and so that's the piece I feel is missing, and that's what this was meant to be, is open, give us some ability to have a say. Maybe not, I mean, we're pretty reasonable, I think, as a commission, but we're fiscally responsible for what they're doing, and we need to have some kind of input. They have a quarterly roundtable. why aren't the commission, I mean, if I go to that roundtable, I can comment in the beginning, but I'm not sure I can be part of that discussion. I think that's a huge missing piece. The county commission, where do we have a voice with the cities to truly advocate for our folks who they don't want this. And they bought here to be in a peaceful pasture land. Now, I agree, there are people who own property who want to be able to sell the property, and that's fine, but I think there just needs to be a balance. So that's all I'll say about it.
So instead of this resolution, if they were to include county commissioners on the roundtable, would that address your concerns?
That would be part of it, yeah. I just think that, Ms. Curtis is one of many examples that I've heard from that are concerned that they don't have a voice and they just are ignored. And they are the impact.
I think people in the rural county need to have a voice, because that's what happened with 2 farms. People are like, hey, I woke up one morning and they said there's this plan to put a septic system right adjacent to my backyard. And I thought I was in the middle of nowhere. And it was because it was annexed way outside the UGB, of course. But yeah, if you're not in the annexation, you definitely could be affected by the annexation and without having any say. So I can see that as a concern.
Right.
I just don't know if this actually addresses that.
It's just an attempt. We gotta start somewhere. And I mean, it's a consideration for the delegation to look at the Tennessee Assembly, and they don't have to even do anything with it, but it looks like they do have a bill, so it won't address everything, but.
I think to that point, it's not just Williamson County, right? This is a problem across the state. And I think we're trying to just say, listen, we want to be included in any sort of legislation that is going to be proposed, that's going to create a better checks and balances in the county growth overall. So, I mean, I know that this has just been a big ask, and I feel like whether they pick 1, 2, or none of these that we're asking to be considered, I think it's at least telling our constituents that, we hear you and we understand the challenges that were faced, and we understand that you do feel like you need a greater voice in the planning that's going on. And it's not to create any friction, it's just to basically, I guess, kind of codify some of the things we've done voluntarily. But that's great, but that doesn't mean that 20 years from now, we might have completely different leadership across our government, and they may not work as well together.
Okay.
Any questions? Are there any other questions or comments from property?
Bill.
I just want to say something. I appreciate all the comments tonight. I thought they were very thoughtful. Matt, I appreciate your referendum idea. I understand your concern about the relationships. That's important. We want to keep relationships. But at the same time, what's going on, we just keep adding more and more stress to our infrastructure. And trying to work with TDOT to get, when are we ever going to get Matt Catcher finished in both the northwest and south? When's that going to happen? The Boma approved the expansion of Columbia Pike 10 years ago. And they're saying, well, maybe in 2028 we'll start something. And it might be done in 2032. So my point is, the developments and expansions come, the infrastructure to go along with that takes almost forever to happen. And so that's my concern. And I have huge respect for the city managers and the mayors. And I have huge respect for people who have come before me and developed this county. They've done a wonderful job. They've actually created a problem by being so successful. But I think we're at a point now where we could talk and talk and talk, and we could have meetings and whatnot, but I think we need to get something concrete done to move this thing along. That's where I stand on it, and I'm willing to discuss. I'm willing to sit down with anybody. Actually, I'm meeting with Patrick Baggett and Eric Stuckey on the 11th. Have breakfast, talk about things. So I think we all should be talking.
It feels 2 days too late.
Huh?
That feels 2 days too late.
Well, that wasn't, I tried to get it sooner. But, you know, we're gonna make a decision Monday night, so, and all of the points for me tonight were very good, and we'll see what happens. Go from there.
Any other questions, comments? All right.
You go first.
Vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is that 3? And then all nays? Any nays?
It's 5 for the tax study. Is that what we're doing?
Yes,
Okay.
taxing
Okay.
vendors.
Yeah.
And did you get any nays, or is it all?
Any nays?
Property Committee, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? One opposed.
Okay.
Brian left, so was
We had,
Brian
we have
left.
1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
4,
4
1.
nothing?
4,
4, 1.
Or
or
one.
3-1.
1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1.
3-1.
Yeah, we have one
Total of
lead.
4.
Yeah, 3, 1.
Who was the dissenting vote?
Jennifer. Jennifer.
Okay.
Capital letters, circled.
All right, moving right along. Take it away. 22622, resolution authorizing Williamson County Board of Commissioners to initiate a request for proposal and retain an independent consulting firm to advise the county commission regarding potential transactions involving Williamson Health. There was one, and can I get a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Mary was one, and who was the second? Right. Okay.
Wait, we need to do ours.
Ours.
Oh, sorry.
A resolution authorizing the Williamson County Board of Commissioners to initiate a request for proposals, RFPs, and retain an independent counseling firm to advise the county commission regarding potential transactions involving Williamson Health.
Motion to approve. No seconds.
Get a second?
Any seconds?
I'll second it to get it on the
Okay.
table.
Okay.
All right. So I'll go ahead and say that somebody mentioned that the whereas 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it mentions 5 commissioners. It was meant to be 4. That was a little typographical error. I know there was discussion at another committee meeting, I think it was budget, that said this is not substantially different. I can agree to disagree. That I went through with a fine tooth comb to make this more amenable and more, I changed it. So it's not the same as the original one that was filed and out there. My biggest concern is I do honestly feel we need a professional independent consulting firm to advise us on this hospital sale. If the hospital didn't feel that way, they certainly wouldn't have hired Kaufman Hall. So I think we are owed the same respect of having that kind of specific and probably cheaper than some other resources that have come forward and said they could offer it. But I would like to put forward an RFP. I did put in here also that the RFP committee would be made up of 5 commissioners and that not include the 4 that are on the board. I did that out of respect for it. It would be viewed as a conflict, and we would get so much crap. And there's 20 more commissioners, so I don't see the issue in excluding the 4 just from that RFP review. But I would never want you to be excluded from the overall vote. I mean, you're a commissioner. You should be allowed a vote of whoever is put forward as selected as a final firm. So that's where I made that change. And, again, it's just, I draw back on my corporate experience. You always want to have expertise. And I know pretty much every commissioner, I'm pretty sure I could speak for, we don't have the expertise to really look at the financial and the strategic guidance and from our perspective that represents us. And I think that's, this is a smart move for us, and it gives us one more tool in our tool basket. So that's why I put this forward. I did soften it a bit, kind of tweaked it a little bit. So hopefully everybody can see that, but I welcome any comments.
I have a question. Can you explain to me, because we have Jesse, the attorney. And I know consultants are different than attorneys. And the hospital has yet to make a recommendation. For all we know, the recommendation could be not to sell. So why do we need a consultant at this moment, at this point in time? I feel like it's a little early in the proceedings. And even if we do need one, why do we need a consultant in excess of our legal representation? And that's what I just need help understanding.
My experience is attorneys do a different role. They play a different role. Could he have expertise in their firm? Yes, but then why didn't the hospital go utilize that same expertise for our county council? I mean, again, there's consultants who specialize in this have a deeper level of knowledge, probably, and I can't be quoted on this, but I'm pretty sure they will be more reasonably priced. So it's a twofold. I think you leave your counsel in one area and then you have a consultant. And that way they're independent of each other and we just get perspectives that are unique. Not to say they couldn't fulfill that, but I know there's another firm locally that I've spoken with and kind of asked questions to. And I do believe, I mean, I've done this when I've gone and done due diligence of purchasing companies. I've actually gone out and hired a separate consulting firm. And we had legal counsel that was fantastic when I worked for Amico. I mean, they were top notch. And we went out and hired an independent firm to help us look at things that we just wouldn't have known. Because you don't want to step in a pile of something because you don't have the right expertise. So that's the reason why, I just thought it was good to have two separate opinions. Not to say that Jesse wouldn't be able to advise us, but I think it's good to have unique perspectives and a firm that specializes, that is pretty much equal to Kaufman Hall, the one I talked to, so.
And do you think it's too soon, or do you think?
Well, I figured we could go ahead, if we could go ahead and get approval for the RFP, we wouldn't have to necessarily do anything until we were at that point. But at least we had the approval so we could make it happen when and if that came.
Okay.
Yeah, that was really my mindset of just not waiting until the last minute, so.
I think that was probably my question you answered. So this is really just asking us to put in an RFP, and I think as part of the RFP process, we'd have a clear understanding of what services the consultant would provide and how that differentiates from what Jesse is doing. And also, is it, while I know Jesse said he can do it, this might be more cost effective if we do have questions. So, I mean, I would be in support of just doing the RFP, just to understand, is this something we need? And then having, the committee kind of, it's gonna educate us. This is like the biggest transaction ever considered in this county. I mean, I don't think it's a bad thing to have expertise kind of walking us through this process, but I think I'm okay with doing the RFP.
And we're not out any money until we actually hire them to do something, right? Right.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree. The hospital's timeline was pretty tight. It was April, and then we're supposed to make a decision in May, which I think is too soon. I think it's too quick of a process. I mean, if they make a decision in April, that's one thing, but I don't see us being able to get enough public input to make a decision by May. However, if you're looking at a timeline of saying, okay, if we have a consultant, we need to have that consultant ready in time to be able to do their job, which is, if it's a 45-day process to do an RFP, then we put the RFP out, we make a decision. If we want to hire a consultant, this is the one we're going to hire based off of the RFP, and then we decide at a later date if we want to hire the consultant. I really completely agree with the idea of hiring a consultant. I really don't think the hospital should have a problem with us hiring a separate consultant. And because all it does is just say, look, if the hospital comes forward with a recommendation to the county commission that this is the RFP that we think you should accept and move forward with, we can engage a consultant to either say, confirm that yes, we think that's the best choice, or they can look at all the other RFPs and say, they might say, well, that's a good choice, but here's another option, and here's why we think this might be a better choice. and give us, it's like getting a second opinion. If you're gonna have a major surgery, you want, you don't necessarily want one doctor. You want to get a couple of doctors to, give you an opinion on it.
Matt?
Yeah, I'm just going to restate kind of similar comments from the last county commission. Had the county commission initiated an RFP for the potential sale of the hospital, the resolution that we're considering right now would be appropriate, because we would want strategic information on the front end as to what are the dynamics and potentially a scenario that might warrant that. Was, say the hospital was losing money every single month and we were tired of writing losses, something like this would be appropriate. However, that's not what's happened. The governing body closest to the actual operations of the hospital, closest to the actual dynamics in the broader healthcare industry, initiated this process after already going through and doing exactly what this resolution proposes. My expectations would be that should they recommend a sell and they bring the proposals forward, that they would also disclose the strategic factors that went into, that prompted soliciting RFPs in the first place, right? We would want to know that. So the way I look at this is that this is completely redundant of what's already been done, and it's a complete waste of money, because we will get this information should the hospital board come forward with a recommendation of moving forward with the sale. That's all I have to say.
Mr.
All right, so thank you. I have a question for council, because this resolution, I know it's different, but it substantively feels very similar to the one that was laid on the table at the last meeting. So what I want to understand is procedurally, does that resolution that's substantively similar need to get pulled off the table, either dealt with, and then hear this? Or what are our options? So that's a question, and then I have a comment.
So yes, you're welcome to obviously discuss this in committee, but because it's substantially, the same, it will need to be pulled off the table. This can replace the one that's on the table, so that would just be one vote of majority vote.
Okay.
But this will essentially be on the table.
Okay.
So you'll have to have that vote on Monday.
So procedurally, so what would that look like, that we would make a motion to pull the resolution that's on the table off the table and replace it with this one?
Yes, that's what.
Is that what Jeff said?
Mostly, yes. But there is disagreement on substantially different or same, and the Robert's Rules of Orders, but I'll deal with that in another conversation with Mostly. Anyway. But yeah, that's essentially, we'd have to untable and then put this in its place.
Which I believe this is on the agenda, so you could do that at that time, or you could do it at the beginning of the meeting. I guess procedurally it's probably best to do it at the time that it
I think it's at the time it comes up.
Okay.
Per Jeff.
And then is the intent then that the 5 commissioners that would be appointed to this RFP committee, would they be the ones that would develop the scope for the RFP and develop the RFP?
Yes, in conjunction with probably Jesse,
Okay.
who's our legal counsel.
Okay.
That would be my expectation.
Yeah, and one of the questions I had asked Jesse, just in full transparency, is that I had a concern that Kaufman Hall potentially could have a conflict because they are owned by the hospital's group purchasing organization. They've all talked about it. They've all agreed that, you saw in the email correspondence from Jesse, they don't believe there's a conflict. So I think the only concern I have is we don't know what a potential cost would be. So if all we're doing is we're just getting an RFP ready and identifying an independent advisor, then I think I can support this, because as I understand it, ultimately we have final say on what happens with the hospital,
Right.
independent of what the hospital is doing right now or not. So I do think in the environment that we're in, we would behoove ourselves to proactively be ready to have some independent advice beyond what we're getting from Jesse, who I think is doing a great job. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody have a question?
Well, the mechanism for picking those 5 commissioners.
I would think it'd be by nomination and vote. That would,
And we would do it individually, and each commissioner would be voted on, or is that correct? So if somebody on the floor says, Drew Torres, all in favor, aye, or are we individually, or is it gonna be somebody picking 5 commissioners for us all to look at as a group?
I would think we nominate and we vote like we've done for other.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, I could,
Yeah.
we could do an amendment if we need to clarify, but that's what I envisioned.
I would just like to have it on the record that if nominated, I will not serve. Please do not. I mean, I got nothing going on. I mean, they'll say it's one round if somebody wants to. If we can try to figure out who those 5 people are beforehand, that would sure be easier, because I'm just imagining sitting through 18 rounds of votes on who the 5 people are in this thing. So let me take me out along with the other 4 that are disqualified. Disqualify me as well. Put it in the motion, the chair of the budget committee may not serve as either. No problem.
I mean, because you could put something in there about it being from different sectors of the county, so it's not like all,
Right.
1 or 2 districts.
I would say that there's members of the county commission that probably have some expertise in this area. So I'd be very interested in serving on it.
I have a comment.
Ms. Mason?
I do not oppose the idea of a consultant. I think the more information, the better. Don't particularly support in the motion are, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6 and 7 whereas. I think that is unnecessary. I don't like putting in, it's not necessarily a personal directive, but it's very pointed at the 4 commissioners of ours that serve on the board, take time out of their schedule to do that. And we're basically saying that they are not the same as the rest of us, or shouldn't be considered the same. Whether you think it's a conflict of interest or not, it really doesn't matter.
Because of constituents who voiced concern. And I said, okay, then we'll just clearly state. And again, it's more so not just to say, oh, shame on those 4. I mean, it's not about wagging our finger at the 4. It's to protect them as well. Say, look, because there's potential conflict, let's protect them. Because the last thing I want them to do is to be given direct and personal grief and flack. I mean, they're serving on a board. That's a lot of their time. So I agree with that. But personally, I put it in here because I was hearing a lot of feedback as well. And I know Chris Richards heard feedback too.
Well,
So
I would be on board with voting this if 5 and 6 were eliminated. And if in number
5 and 6 or 6 and 7?
Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 were eliminated. And if in number 4 says by majority vote, if we took out excluding commissioners, I think if the board votes us 24 as a vote for Matt Williams, for example, to be on it, then that's the purview of our board. So I don't like the exclusion of anybody as well. And so I'm all for a consultant. I tend to stay away from very pointed call outs of other commissioners in a resolution when I feel that it's unnecessary. So I would make a motion, and my motion would be to eliminate I should number these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 and 7 whereas. And then in number 4, the excluding commissioners who serve on the Williamson Health Board of Trustees to avoid conflicts of interest would be my motion to amend.
On property, do we have a second to that motion? I'll second it.
So does property then vote?
We vote on.
Now you can have, if property would like to have discussion on the amendment, they can, or they can vote, but that's.
So just the property committee, any motions, any discussions on those motions?
I would just say, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't look at it as a negative slur on these dedicated commissioners who are working on the hospital board. I think it's just a matter of they've got their hands full, they're taking it from one perspective, and the county commission has got plenty of other people who could take it from the other side. And if I were a commissioner on the hospital board, I wouldn't feel like I was being put down or excluded or you're bad or anything. I would just feel like it's not necessary. The whole point is to have an independent third opinion or second opinion. Let's keep it as independent as we can without, breaking a sweat. It's really not possible. So,
The only, I would
You
sort of,
disagree?
I mean, and those commissioners may not even want to be on the board. And so they may not even, and they would probably not want to be on the board. I just say
That's what I'm
the
thinking.
language, and we don't have to really nominate those commissioners,
True.
It's just it limits
It's a
sort of,
protection.
I understand.
There is no slur. I have no
We
issue.
can vote.
I do have just a point of order, just real quick. So our rules, 8.5, special committees, which I think this would fall under council. All special committees will be appointed by the steering committee upon affirmative action requesting same by the Board of Commissioners.
Yeah.
Okay, so the steering committee would appoint them.
So, well, the steering committee would need to request the Board of Commissioners to do the RFP committee, and then it would go
Right.
back through steering to,
So this resolution likely would create that RFP committee. And so after the resolution passed, the steering committee would then meet.
To appoint the
To
members.
appoint the members. That sounds
Okay.
good.
Perfect.
I like that.
So
That's their job.
So is the amendment still on the table?
the amendment is still on the table properly.
So just a comment to the amendment. I would find it extremely odd to have strategic discussion around selling an entity and not involving anybody that's actually close to the entity. And actually, you would probably want some of that knowledge concerning the operation of that entity included in the strategic discussion that's being considered.
It's just
Okay. So is there any other discussions on the property,
On the amendment?
on the amendment? Okay, if not, properties go vote on the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. There are three. Those opposed,
No, I'm opposed.
one no. Then we go back to the original discussion, and we can go back to both committees. Yes.
If you don't mind, I do want to clarify to Commissioner Torres's question. Because this does say the commission's appointing by majority vote that committee, I do believe it may have to go back to the commission unless you were to amend this to say to create the commission is creating.
Right,
Right,
yeah.
so
that makes
that's
sense.
what I was gonna say. So this looks like maybe we need to strike 6, 7, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 6 to 7, and maybe 8. Strike that and basically say what you just said. What you said, basically that we need to appoint or commission the steering committee to appoint the committee. Is that?
I think
would
if you say, the commission hereby creates a special committee for purposes of, and then put, creating this RFP, however you want to describe that, as one of your, under the now therefore be it resolved. Creating that special committee will trigger that rule that it will now be, once it's created, sent to steering, and then steering can.
So basically, number 4 would be stricken and rewritten to say basically what you're saying. Upon creation of the RFP committee, the steering committee shall be tasked with appointing 5 members of the county commission to serve.
Yes.
Ish.
Yes, and we've got to create the committee, so you would say hereby creates, the majority vote, the commission hereby creates the RFP committee of 5 members, oversight committee for the RFP, however the sponsor wants to.
Well, you have time to
word
marinate on it.
that. Let's see.
But it could be amended or reworded
Yes.
to point to the steering committee who would then do what they need to do. So we.
How about
Yes.
hereby creates a committee to initiate a request for proposals RFP and retain an independent consulting firm to advise. Basically, we copy the title, period. And then that would trigger the steering committee, correct?
Yes. If we'll just call that a special committee for the special.
Okay.
There is one. No, but
Okay. A special committee of 5 members. Yeah, so I think that would work.
Okay,
Is someone making that motion?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
are you on this?
Do we need a second, please?
You're on the tax.
I'm on track.
Okay, so tax, we've got a motion. Someone can also make the motion on property if you like, if you want.
I would make the motion on property as well.
So we
So,
have,
which one? Okay, now we're crossing too many.
So-
so
Greg,
let's start with the
amendment that
tax.
goes to
So
steering.
Lawrence has made the motion. Is anyone seconding?
I'll
from tax?
second.
Okay, Mary Smith is seconding.
So for
And-
And
property
now tell us what you
motion,
want.
Barb second.
Yeah, Barb seconded over here.
Okay.
So Jennifer, can you read it again, please?
So it would say by majority vote, the commission hereby creates a special committee, and then you basically start up here to initiate a request for proposals and retain an independent consulting firm to advise the county commission regarding potential transactions involving Williamson Health. You can say, period, the special committee shall consist of 5 county commission members as appointed by the steering committee pursuant to our local rules.
We can pull the recording and make
You
sure.
sound like an attorney.
I didn't get it all, but I was.
Every day, all day.
Okay.
Okay,
Ms. Lawrence, you vote, or
Y'all wanna
your
go first?
motion is for what she just said?
Yes, what she said.
what she said. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
No.
Okay, property committee.
Okay, we had
So let's make sure,
4 yes and 1 no.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
yes.
Property committee, all those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. That's, any nays? 1 nay.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't, you're for,
No,
you're for.
Four yeses.
It's on the amendment that we just talked
Just
about,
about
the steering committee.
For the committee. that-
For the steering
designated by
committee.
the steering committee.
Yes.
That's fine.
Okay, 4-0 against.
So as it stands right now, property and tax all agree on number 4, we just amended.
Yes.
But property has amended it to remove 6 and 7, tax has not. So we're all clear.
Yes.
So it's to us.
But there's not been a motion made by tax to amend 6 and 7. Or
I'll make a
eliminate.
motion, amend 6
Or-
and 7. to
Or
match-
eliminate,
Or to remove it.
or remove it.
I'm going to make a motion to match tax's recommendation, or not tax, property committee's recommendation.
Can we have a second?
Second.
Okay, voting, speak loud and clear, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Nay.
I'll vote aye.
Okay.
Sorry.
So that's.
So that's what?
4-1, 4-1.
I didn't like 7, but 6 I'm okay with.
Oh,
So now, the resolution on the floor for both committees is as amended, 6 and 7 whereases are gone, and 4 has been rewritten to instruct the steering committee to appoint.
I'm gonna do it.
I guess.
Okay, sorry, housekeeping, I didn't read fast enough. I would also make a motion to eliminate number 8, because in my opinion, it just kind of mirrors 6 and 7. It talks about excluding commissioners, which have now been removed. So,
So just be prepared for the emails you will receive. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, there's nothing personal or negative. I think it's a protection, but
in my opinion, we all sign conflict of interest when we come on the board, and so I don't see the point in, again, the reason I'm making this motion is I don't see the point when we already sign conflicts of interest. And I think it's debatable if there is a conflict. I should say this. I'm not saying there is a conflict of interest, in my opinion.
I would just
Do we have
add
a
to that.
second
Right.
real quick?
Do we have a second? Second. Okay, property committee, all those, or is there any discussion?
Mary's gonna calm down.
Well, it'll go to tax. Okay, All those on the property committee, are there any questions or comments on that property committee, on the amendment? All those in favor, striking that one up, that number 8 also signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
3-1.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you have a comment you would like to address?
I guess it's, we have to make a motion, somebody has to make a motion to amend it here on this side.
I'll do it. I got to.
Just leave it.
Yeah, we'll check tomorrow. My brain's fried.
I'll make one comment just because of, I think we went through this with the task force too, that to Commissioner Williams' point, sometimes having somebody who has the inside knowledge can bring value to those discussions. So while I understand the conflict of interest, I also understand the value of having somebody who's been part of those discussions being included. And we did the same thing on the subsurface task force. We wanted somebody from the sewage task force to be part of those conversations because they're kind of the boots on the ground. So I do understand the value that someone like that could bring to these conversations. So that was all I was going to say.
Okay, sorry.
Can they still have part of the conversation without being on the committee?
They're still in, I can't
hope
see the
they
steering
could,
committee
but-
like saying, okay, everybody in the hospital board, we're gonna put you on this committee, because there's 5 members of it. I can't see that happening, I can't see anyone would do that. But if there's one, they still only have 1 vote on that RFP. So it's not like around a majority vote.
Yeah.
I mean, even if they even want to.
We're just putting together
an
an RFP.
Yeah.
It's not like we're making a decision.
Yeah.
Okay. So any more comments, any more exclusions, eliminations on the tax side? Okay. Are we ready to vote on the tax side?
Yes, I can review, which unless you'll have more discussion, I can review what the amendments are. I also, for both committees, I'll type these up and send you a list of amendments tomorrow.
Thank you.
I don't know if I can follow my notes.
Bree, can you make sure that she gets a recording of the meeting? That way it makes it easier. Both of
No.
them.
Yeah, I'll talk.
Just for clarity's sake, so we still have to vote on what we've amended.
No, you voted,
You
right?
voted.
You voted to
We
take
voted on the amendment.
We voted on the amendment.
We all got to vote on the
gotta vote on the
resolution as
overall.
amended.
That's what I'm
Yes,
saying.
yes.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yes.
But we have 2 different ones, so just
Yes.
wanted to be clear, we have 2
Just,
different.
yeah,
two
you
You
different
guys got
resolutions.
rid of 6, 7, and we
But
got
not
rid of
8.
6, 7, and 8.
Right,
Yeah.
that's the only difference. Y'all have,
I've been waiting to hear that. I saw that, Commissioner.
y'all still have 8, we don't. That's the only
That's
difference.
the only difference.
Everything
Just
else is
making
the
sure
same.
Yeah.
Procedurally, we're going to the right next step.
Thank you. Okay, so are we ready to vote on the overall final product on
We
the
are.
tax side?
We are.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Any nays?
Nay.
1 nay. Steve? Okay. And we had 4 yeses. Okay, sorry, just making sure. All right.
Okay, property committee, all those in favor of this resolution as amended signify by saying aye. Aye. Any nays?
Nay.
3-1.
Okay. Unless there's any other business or issues, then I vote to adjourn.
We've been here for a long time. I just talked about the nonsense topic. This is going on almost 3 hours.